Are rounding things out with the OTT.X Research Roundup. It's presented by OTT.X's partner, the Pepperdine Graziadio School of Business. Thanks to the good people at Pepperdine for your collaboration and partnership to help bring us this rapid-fire rundown of the most timely and relevant research in streaming today. To get us kicked off, we have Guney Yasavur, Vice President of Cineplex, with a presentation titled Above the Border. Gennari, hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm from the north. Let me share my screen quickly. I think everybody, it's almost coming up. Okay, perfect. I think everybody can see that right now. Oh, you also see the next slide. That's strange. I don't know why you see the other slide, by the way. Let me give it one more chance. Okay, perfect. All right, so again, hello from the north of snowy Canadian day today. I'm Guney Yasavur, Vice President of the Cineplex store. So let me give you a brief information. Who is Cineplex and what is the Cineplex store? Cineplex is the biggest theatrical chain in Canada. You can think like AMC in the US. We have around like 80% market share in Canadian box office and 10% in the domestic box office. In addition to our theatrical business, we also operate on restaurants, arcade rooms, media, and one of the biggest loyalty program in Canada, Scene Plus. Cineplex store is the transactional video on demand service. It's the biggest local TVOD service in Canada. A typical one which offers the tentpole titles as well as the recent releases. And you may be wondering why a TVOD guy is presenting a fast market in Canada, and let me give you an answer to that. We are planning to expand our business, including the fast opportunity. And since we are a media company, as Cineplex Media as well, we've been conducted lots of researches for the fast market. And today I will make a summary from different research from Roku, from CTEM Canada, from Samsung to, give you a quick overview of how the fast market is looking. But before I do this, I just want to spend a minute quickly to explain why fast becomes a very major thing. And I think we need to look at the pandemic. I know nobody likes talk about the COVID, but the COVID make a huge impact on the content windowing. So if you see here, before COVID, a regular EST window was around 3 months. And then it goes to VOD in 2 to 4 weeks. And after that, it was available in different services. And generally, 24 months, it was available either on SVOD or maybe any related pay TV services. With the COVID, what we have seen, studios start to offer a new windowing, which names as the premium window. In order to recoup their loss on the theatrical releases, they decided to provide either day-to-day or in 3 months, a premium window. Then the regular windowing continues as it is, like 4 weeks VOD, and 3 to 24 months this time to SVOD. Now, since we are after post-COVID era, things has been more permanent. Now, studios are offering the premium window or EST in 3 to 4 weeks. Then in 4 to 5 weeks, they release the EST titles. And now in 1 to 24 months, we see the contents are released on either on SVOD or FAST and pay TV. And that's one of the reasons FAST also right now a reach from a content offering perspective. Let's take a quick look on the Roku's research to understand the Canada. Canada is a very diversified and a multicultural country. Right now, it's 40.8 million people. When I came to Canada, which was like 5 years ago, it was only 35 million. So you can easily see that there is a 1.2 million people coming to Canada every year, and 30% of the people are not Canadian here. It's a very saturated market in terms of the streamers. Over 75% people are using the streamers at their home. And there's a big trend, like everywhere in global, there are 34% of cord nevers, which rising up from 29% in 2022. This is a chart from CTEM research, and you can find it online. They have a pretty good research in Canadian market. In order to understand the crossover between fast OTT and TV, we want to understand more on the demography side. So here you can see the TV subscribers are older, they live alone, they don't have kids living with them. They are mainly born in Canada, and they are French speaker audience, and they live in rural areas. If you look at the 28% people who are saying that regularly using FAST, they are middle-aged, like me. They have kids between 12 and 15 years old, and they are more established Canadians. And if we look at the OTT users, you're going to see that they are younger audience. They are new to Canada, and they are mainly speaking English. So let's look at what services we are available in Canada. First of all, I want to tell that the Canadian market is not as rich as the US market. We have the major players like Pluto, Tubi, Roku, and Samsung TV Plus, LG, but we don't have as much as in US. It is the same thing with the channels as well. So if we look at the fast awareness here, you can see that more than 50% of the people are still not, almost half of the people have not heard the FAST channel before. And when you look at their first time when watching the first FAST channel, more than a year ago, 33% of the people watch more than a year ago, where 28% of the people is just introduced with FAST recently. And when we compare between FAST and the TV, you see that there is an overall adaptation of FAST services is start to increase. But this is an interesting chart from CTEM telling that more than half of the people, as you can see here, like 85% of the people thinks the FAST has a different programming compared to TV, which is a very positive thing in my opinion. And also, only 12% of the people thinks that FAST maybe make them to use less TV services. And when we are trying to understand how people learn about the FAST, most of them are introduced to FAST by the existing TV or dongle devices or streaming device they recently purchased. And there's a big chunk of people who just heard the FAST from the social media and internet. And as you can see, word of mouth is a very important part of FAST discoverability. And this also gives us that there's a big potential for the FAST channels to start promoting their services in Canada. And when the users have been asked how many days in the week they are using FAST, more than 60% of them are using less than 3 days, and only like 17% of the users are using FAST either every day or more than 5 days. If we take a look at the most preferred FAST services, we're going to see that the Tubi is leading with Samsung TV and Roku and LG. This is a very similar pattern where we see on the store side. Most of the time, Samsung, Roku, LG shares are very similar, so it's not a surprise for me to see that those three are at the top preferred FAST services. On your right, you're going to see there are the number of channels per platform. I didn't include all the channels here, but the major ones. You may realize that Tubi is 42. Tubi has only 42 channels, but they have lots of viewership. This is mainly because of the AVOD services. They don't have much channel in Canada. And for example, as you can see here, we don't have any Amazon FAST services available here. And in general, people are telling that they are using an average of 2 FAST services. This is a combined chart. I use Samsung charts and our own research. So the number of channels on the light blue, you're gonna see the number of channels available of number of channels compared to total channels. And on the dark blue side, you're gonna see how the ratings. As you can see, there are a couple of things which I want to highlight. First of all, horror. We don't have much horror channels, but the Canadians love horror content. So if you're a fast aggregator or a fast channel provider, make sure that you are having some horror genre. I see that on TVOD business when there's Halloween time, our numbers are double or triple most of the time. And I think there's also good opportunity on the kids. I know I have kids as well. They are mainly using YouTube for fast, but I think there's a good opportunity to make some kids content available. And the last opportunity would be here is sports. That has been discussed a couple of times during the session. So I think sports will play a key role on the fast ecosystem in Canada. So I know the time was limited, so I just tried to be very quick, and we are already been late. So as a summary, the fast market in Canada is growing, but is not compared to US yet. It is seen as a complementary to the TV service. And also, as I mentioned, the sport content is limited, but it will be much preferred in Canada. And the Canadians are prioritizing value for money, so they will be actively seeking the best combination of services that they meet their needs. And according to some of the research I read, one of the major reasons why people is watching fast is they want to fill the gap when there's nothing else watch on TV. And last but not least, I hear people are discussing this a lot throughout the day. Discoverability is the key option. So that's why the channels or aggregators need to have an enhanced promotion and marketing of their fast platforms in order to expand their reach. So thank you so much for the listening. I hope those numbers are valuable. And you're gonna see, you can find online on Samsung or Roku or CTEM. There are lots of great researches around the content market in Canada.
Hey, thanks a lot, Guney. And thank you to Cineplex. That's what's shaking in the Great White North. Next, to help us with some data about the streaming business below the border, we're excited to have with us Tom Gennari, CEO at BB Media. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Eric. Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me once again, OTT.X, and all the folks at the association. Always glad to share what we do. And so happy to share some data from our homeland, Latin America. So who's ready to do some business on fast around Latin America? Put those virtual hands up. And we have plenty of data, as usual, when it comes to fast and AVOD. So I will share my presentation. It's rather long presentation. So feel free to reach out afterwards so that I can send the slides, or we can do that via OTT.X. So I hope this is going through now. I think it is. And let's get going. So AVOD and fast across Latin America. Unlike Canada, we have a lot of different situations in different markets across Latin America. So when looking at the entire region, okay? So when looking at the entire region, we're looking at 35 existing streaming services that are purely AVOD. So that is right, this over here. And 25 that are a combination hybrids between AVOD and other business models. Now, when looking at how many assets they've got, so we've got and this big numbers are actually outstanding, like huge libraries across AVOD and FAST when it comes to on-demand titles. And you can see that there's a lot of offer, okay? Now, is there also demand? We will be looking at that in a couple of slides. But still looking at the players and the evolution, here we've got how many AVODs and FAST. Now, many of these have FAST and live stream channels on them. A very positive evolution, which we all know about this. And only during 2023, 7 new AVOD OTTs were launched. And some of these become to be more specialized. We've got Primera, and this one's from Spain, Mercado Play for the ones that know Mercado Play, actually Mercado Libre. It is like, let's call it like an Amazon from Latin America. And they have launched now their own AVOD. And we also have Flix House, which is an OTT.X member. So shout out to Tony and his amazing AVOD streaming service that he's expanding now internationally. So we see many streaming services being launched across Latin America. And in 2024, we also have more than have been already either launched or announced. So yes, the market is expanding with new players. Now, it's a lot of different new players, okay? Unlike Canada, we have a lot of local players, broadcast channels now launching their AVOD and FAST versions. Sometimes it's the same content that they're being broadcasting. Sometimes it's a different library of contents, but we have a lot of different players. And then we also have, well, what we call the ad-supported SVODs, right? So here we also have Netflix. Even though it is available all across Latin America, Netflix has launched their ad-supported SVOD just in Brazil and Mexico. A couple days ago, Amazon announced they will be launching their ad-supported SVOD in Mexico now. So this will continue to happen as well, the ad-supported SVODs. So now that we know that there's a lot of different offers, and if you want to reach out to any of these streaming services, just do send us a note. We have contacts with most of them. If you want to distribute titles, if you want to get in touch with them for offering services or technology, just make sure to drop us a line, and I'm sure that we can probably help you out. We know all of these guys, of the local players, okay? So then when it comes to the demand, and looking at the users' preferences. So, and of course, when comparing between SVOD and AVOD. So this is the first thing that comes up. SVOD has a 75% penetration, looking at households that have broadband access, so they have a fixed internet connection, 75% penetration of SVOD. When compared to AVOD, that is 38%. Now here we do small parenthesis, we exclude YouTube when looking at this number. If we did include YouTube here, this number would actually ramp up to something like 60 to 65% in the entire region, okay? Now something that is also worth mentioning, how much time do users spend on each one of these business models? So the SVOD business models spend 16 hours a week watching SVOD, 16 hours a week, okay? Now, when compared to AVOD users, and this is just from the households that use AVOD and fast streaming services, they spend almost 5 hours a week, okay? So even though the penetration is like kind of half of the SVOD penetration, also the frequency of use and how many hours spent, it's also much, much smaller on AVOD. We are seeing this number it's growing. We estimate it will continue to grow, but still it is on the low side when compared to SVOD. And these are the leading AVOD and fast streaming services in Latin America. Pluto TV is the main one. SBT, that is a local player from Brazil. Mercado Play, that even though it was launched just a few months ago, it already has 11% of the market share. And then we have a VIX that is also, as you probably know, owned by Televisa Univision, and they're also growing those numbers every single update of this survey that we do every quarter. So all these numbers are expected to continue to grow. So on the demand side, there's clearly a demand for AVOD and FAST. Now, when looking in particular at the libraries, the contents available on these streaming services, we wanted to do some kind of like analysis, like is the content unique? Is the content catalog? Is the content old content? And one of the recent analyses we made was, well, let's compare the AVOD streaming services that are here in the rows when compared to the leading SVOD streaming services? Are the contents being unique on both sides, or do we have a lot of overlap? And the fact is, yes, the contents are different when compared to HBO Max, well, now rebranded as Max in Latin America, and Netflix and Paramount. There is a lot of overlap with the long tail contents available on Prime Video. Now, Prime Video having an average something like 10,000 titles in each one of the Latin American markets. Still, it's not a big overlap when considering how big that catalog on Prime Video is. So, all in all, the AVOD streaming services are in fact offering a distinguished catalog, and many times it is long-tail catalogs, older contents. Now, the same goes when doing Brazil in particular. So we have the same exact analysis, so no difference here. Prime Video does have a bit of an overlap, but it's not a big portion of those catalogs. And then I want to jump onto the monetization strategies. Now, when talking about monetization on AVOD and FAST, we are talking about ad insertions. So we did an analysis and comparing subscription SVODs with ads, so Disney, Hulu, Peacock, and Netflix, and then pure AVOD streaming services, Pluto, ViX, Freevee, this is in the US, not in Latin America, and Global Play, because we wanted to do like, well, are we being able to monetize this AVOD streaming services in Latin America? And the answer is not that good, maybe. Because when looking at the US, Disney has paid ads, small explanation on this. This was done over 16 titles that were analyzed. So we watched 16 titles and we saw how many ads were coming up. So the columns here are showing how many ads were shown during 16 titles that were analyzed, and how many of them were paid, which is the purple column, and then how many were internal promotions, like for internal contents, Disney promoting their own originals, for example. That is in the brown column. Okay, so in the US, things are being monetized way better than in Latin America, because ViX is not doing that well. Pluto is owned by Paramount. They are doing much, much better. When we did this analysis the last time, this was like a year ago, Pluto was not doing that well still. It still had like a lot of promotions, but this is also improving. But we continue to monitor how many paid ads versus how many internal promotions we get on these AVODs and fast streaming services, just to know that, well, are we being able to monetize this properly or not? Now, also on the ad-supported SVODs, we do continue to monitor the price gap between the full subscription and the ad-supported version of these SVODs. Now, in average, we're looking at prices that are much, much lower than the average prices in the US. So in average, in Latin America, you can get access to an ad-supported SVOD for something like $5. Prime Video is on the lower end of that average. Maybe Max is like a bit above, and Netflix is kind of like right in the middle. iQIYI, which you probably know of, maybe you don't, is the leading Chinese streaming service that is in fact available across Latin America. And they're also a bit above the average. And Filmbox, we do consider this one on every analysis, well, just because they're owned by Canal Plus and Vivendi, and they have a very aggressive strategy with their pricing and their plans available. And we see they're starting to grow slightly in terms of users and brand awareness. And then the DAZN, of course, as a special mention to a sports streaming service, which again has a price that is much lower than other markets where they are available in. Okay, I did a brief explanation on each one of these streaming services. And then going to a couple of last slides, not to run over the next presentation. We are monitoring functionalities when it comes to AVODs and FAST. So a couple things to consider. This is still a bit clumsy in Latin America. We need to improve the features and functionalities. Not every streaming service has a skip ad button. Well, that could be just a strategy not to include skip ads buttons, which, arguably you could do it. Maybe you don't have to. But then good practices like break markers. Most streaming services in Latin America are not including this, Ad notifications that we have seen some of this happening in the US. Ad notifications that the ad will start in like 3, 2, 1. This is not happening in Latin America either. Ad counter, how many ads you're going to be watching. From all the analyzed AVOD and fast streaming services, we only saw 2 of them, including an ad counter, which again, a good practice not being taken into account, but by all of the streaming services we analyzed. A timer similar to the ad counter, just very few are doing this. And so we consider this to be like good practices so that the users are more friendly towards AVOD and fast. But still, these are not being implemented in Latin America. I will just skip this one and get back to this in just a minute, because the last thing that I wanted to mention is what's happening with FAST in particular. There was a lot of talk today in terms of how many channels are being offered. Well, we are monitoring what channels are being offered across Latin America. And the numbers for the leading streaming services like Pluto, well, they have kind of like plateaued around 250, 300 channels in each market. And it seems that the numbers are not going to grow much further than that. Again, it makes for a complicated user experience when you have so many channels available. But we continue to see more streaming services that continue to build those fast catalogs, channels being included. So there's still a lot of place for growth. Now, something else that is worth mentioning when talking about pay TV and their relationship with FAST in particular in Latin America, and without giving out any names, but many of our biggest clients in Latin America are in fact pay TV operators. And they're seeing the numbers of pay TV subscribers continue to diminish slowly. It's kind of like it's not that bad, but those numbers, it's like, well, they're kind of afraid, like, where is this headed? And should we include a fast option inside of our pay TV streaming service? Which counterintuitive, if it is a paid streaming service, how are you going to include a fast part to that? But it seems to be part of their future strategy. So look out for fast streaming services somehow being combined with pay TV services, which I think it would be healthy in terms of bringing awareness to this new business model being made available. It would bring awareness to these existing services and channels, and hopefully also bring more eyeballs and more monetization when it comes to ads, because that is also very much needed. Okay, so I will not have time to go through each one of the streaming services in particular. So there was a Netflix slide before. We've got in-depth analysis on Freevee and Disney Plus and their ad-supported versions. Now, the only thing that I do want to mention is we continue to see somehow, and this is a very cool survey that we do, that we monitor how many ads on these streaming services. This is the US, not Latin America. But somehow we find to be when it is a new account, the new accounts on a Freevee, and the same goes for most of the other AVODs and fast streaming services, new accounts see way more ads per hour than older accounts for whatever reason. And the teams continue to find this as like, well, an amusing insight that we wanted to share. Now, if you want more details on each one of the streaming services we monitor, just make sure to send us an email. And once again, thank you very, very much, OTT.X, for making us a part of the OTT.X Live.
Hey, thanks so much, Tom. Terrific little presentation there. You are doing some great things at BV Media in mining, collecting, and delivering really interesting metrics. It's honestly a great service to the entire ecosystem. Thanks a lot for that little taste of some of that.
Thank you very much, Eric.
And well, we have one more presentation, but before we get to that, I want to remind everybody that we're offering a 10% off registration to our upcoming X-Fronts conference taking place on May 20th through the 21st in LA. You can use promo code X-Fronts OL10. That's like X-Fronts online 10% when registering. So take advantage of that, as well as a 20% discount on company membership to OTT.X for the next 2 weeks to all attendees of Online Live. Just go ahead and email us at info@OTT.X to learn more. If you're new to us at OTT.X, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our distribution list. You can do that from our website at the bottom of the homepage. And follow us on LinkedIn. You can just search for OTT.X and we'll show up there. Finally, big thank you to XL8 for your support of the event today with online captions and Spanish translations. XL8 have been terrific supporters of OTT.X, and we're very grateful for your support. With that, our final presentation of the day is from James Duvall, Principal Analyst and Head of Entertainment at Futuresource Consulting. He's going to lead us through research about fast trends in UK, Germany, and Japan. Hi, James.
Good afternoon to everybody, and great presentations today, conversations taking place. Thanks very much for having me come and talk to you all today. So I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully then everyone will be able to see that. So fantastic. So very briefly, for those who are unaware, who Futuresource is, we're a market research consultant company covering, as you can see, a wide range of verticals. I head up the entertainment team looking at the market dynamics and consumer trends across the visual and audio space. As said, there's some great data already shared in the prior two presentations, in which for today you may hear some similar themes from myself, but I'm going to take you on a brief tour on the consumer dynamics of the engagement across AVOD and FAST channels, with the data points taken from our Living with Digital biannual syndicated survey. It's a study that covers all sectors of the visual category, from cinema, subscription, transactional content, pay TV, and ad-based consumption. I'll be pulling out some key trends, excluding data from the US and Canada, mainly referencing specifics around the UK, Germany, and Japan, as already outlined. But we do, across the survey, track 12 markets in total. So without further ado, so looking and going into some of the detail, the success of ad-based services and the fast channels that has been seen across North America has yet to really be replicated in international markets. Via our Living with Digital biannual study, we have been able to kind of see and track progress of this growing awareness, which, if you think pre-COVID, saw around 15% awareness of services that we asked about. Roll forward to 2023, and when asking about these services, our Japanese respondents come out at lowest with only around 12%, having viewed a service within the past month. Whilst when we look forward at other markets, we can see kind of the UK is actually has awareness at around 38%. Now, back pre-COVID, this was at 18%. So there has been a large growth in those who are aware and are engaging in AVOD services, but the kind of that is still behind what we see across in kind of markets for North America. The competition for eyeballs, though, is tough. Converting active users to regular users is a real tricky one. So with the showcase here, we can see across the nuances of conversion for the three markets that, as referenced, we've got for UK and Japan already, we have awareness at around 38 and 12%. For Germany, it's around 34%. Now, these two European markets do sit comfortably ahead of other markets we track in Europe, which roughly come out around 30% awareness. Now, obviously, within this, we have this over-indexing for these two markets. When it comes actually then to how frequent users are engaging with services, when we look at those who are active, we're only seeing in kind of UK and Germany around just under 30% of users using actively looking at these services on a daily basis. For Japan, again, with a lower base, is at a kind of lower proportion of users. However, for Japan, when we get into looking at active users on a weekly basis, then they do come on more on par with that for Germany and the UK. But if you think how often and the number of hours consumers are engaging with content, that level of access is still relatively low. In the most recent survey that we've conducted, we've also started to ask users how they are where they're spending most of their time. And we've seen that on kind of when we look at ranking those different services, whether it would be a subscription service, broadcast TV, whether it be a AVOD service, then we can see on here actually for Germany and the UK, they come out at around circa 20% of respondents are ranking the free ad-based channels as their top viewing platform. So whilst that is behind usage of subscription content, which comes out at around about 30% of our respondents ranking it as number one, we are seeing kind of that growth and that engagement coming through of people kind of considering this platforms an area where they're going to be spending more of their time. And so within this growing ecosystem, there is the ability to have channels as a viewing destination. And so it's key to help us understand and drive the frequency of the usage and improve the opportunity of where brands can be reaching kind of consumers. And so we do ask and we look at understanding how respondents and what are they doing first before they're viewing their content on a AVOD channel. And we can see from our responses that just over a third of respondents are actually going straight to that channel. They're going to engage with that. They know that they want to engage on a channel which might be on Pluto or kind of their service, AVOD service of choice. However, when we look specifically at the European markets that we track, they come out at a lower degree, at only 28% on average for these markets. Now, this obviously kind of, for us, it kind of starts to showcase that actually versus the wider set of countries that we track, there's obviously a gap here in Europe between where audiences are going. We see that when we're looking at audiences who are going to their regular TV, broadcast TV first, that places like Japan over-index significantly, and kind of coming out at 36% of all respondents, they're going straight to those services. For the leading European kind of countries, they come out at around 32%. So again, there is a more ingrained usage of content and where people are going to get their TV viewing. We also have to remember that the broadcast channels have got their catch-up services. And here in the UK, we see that around 80% of our respondents are using catch-up service at least once a month. Now, we also here in the UK have just had kind of recently in the last few months, the launch expected to come in Q2 of Freely, bringing together live and on-demand TV services from the leading 4 free-to-air broadcasters. Another service which will combine audiences viewing alongside their scheduled TV with free ad-based channels. That will obviously provide more competition and for the channels that already exist. Now, we do see within looking at other options, there is a smaller share of just over 20% for viewing on other digital services, which is including subscription. So I imagine how many here, obviously not for the first time, we're going to watch and discover content. There's an untapped audience for fast channels. It's understanding where we can kind of gain that audience, where we can kind of look to engage with them. First of all, is key. We don't want them jumping onto a subscription service, finding content and not getting to those AVOD platforms. So what's driving some of that engagement? Why are audiences looking to engage with these channels? The obvious is true. It's content that's not available elsewhere, or where audiences have scrolled enough on their streaming services, they can't find anything else to watch on their favorite service like Netflix or Disney Plus. It's currently being seen as a backup channel, though, a channel to meet consumers' perceived value for money demands. That as we hit saturation rates on paid subscriptions, it's where content can be viewed with no further outlay of money. It's always going to be a good route for that in-home viewing. But we do see variations across markets do exist. So, for example, when it comes to shows of interest, we see the likes of Germany and Japan, where this region ranks within the top two. And so kind of there is kind of a key focus where audiences are looking for Pacific TV content that is kind of a draw from them. And so it's how we market that to reach those audience groups and across the different channels that are available in different markets. Now, briefly, just looking kind of at some of the kind of the audience profiles, understanding who and where channels are reaching, what other content is that engaging those can help develop and grow that audience base, can help and understand for marketing brands and where those channels are going to give them the biggest reach. So starting off across the a traditional profile group, looking at kind of age groups, looking at active users and the share that they represent of our total survey respondents, we can see that within the two youngest age groups here, near 50% of those respondents in those age groups are also accessing AVOD platforms. So this is obviously near half of that group. We're looking at a younger demographic who is more regularly engaging with this content. When we dive into the countries, we kind of Germany and the UK see a larger younger base engaging with channels at over 50%. While in Japan, the younger audiences, just 25% of our younger audiences are engaging in AVOD platforms. When it comes to the opposite end of the platform, Germany and Japan see just 6% of 66 plus respondents viewing across these platforms. An indicator, though, for Japan to spark growth is that obviously their younger audiences is where that growth is going to come from. When we look at family makeup, we can also see that as a key driver for FAST. The comfort factor in being able to know that your children are watching known IP brands that they are kind of fans of mean that we can kind of drive respondents and kind of see strong engagement there. 40% of respondents with children under 12 are using a AVOD service. This drops down to just 29% when we're looking at those households where there are no children. And within the households, it's the younger age groups which actually are seeing an even higher level of engagement. If you've got a specific channel focused on a brand, which is almost on a repeat cycle, fantastic way to keep those kids engaged when you need it. When looking at a slightly different profile group, when we look at those of those who are engaging across different product segments, we can see where audiences are starting to cross over in their engagement of content from different areas. So for those of us that were online at the start of the session today, Mark mentioned how one of the positives outcomes from COVID was the emergence and growth of FAST channels, from its relative terms of a handful of a few channels through to the thousands that are now available. On the opposite end, though, was the tough environment that those in exhibition were experiencing. With reopening since COVID restrictions, attendance has been continuing to grow. And from our survey, we see that over half of our respondents are now back attending the cinema at least once a year. But when we look at those groups who are also engaging with AVOD platforms, we can see that there is over a third of that cinema audience who are kind of also getting content via different kind of FAST channels. And when we can see it across the three chosen markets, actually kind of that is between 50 and 60% of users aren't going to the cinema. And so kind of there's a huge audience base there who are engaged with AVOD, who aren't cinema, who are looking for film content, obviously for them to kind of experience. We obviously saw earlier as well kind of reference around windowing, kind of changing content, and obviously there being shorter lead times from content moving from cinema through to the different windows. And when we look at transactional, which tends to be that first window after theatrical side of it, we can see that actually of transactional users, there is near 50% of them are also engaged on watching content via an AVOD platform. So obviously this audience group, highly engaged, looking at ensuring they're getting content from multiple different sources. And within this group, it's actually the TV EST buyers who are the most engaged. Obviously, looking to get kind of a greater degree of TV content from different sources rather than just transactional. And when we look at the subscription services or pay TV services, we see that whilst there's a smaller group who are also engaged in AVOD platforms, it's still a sizable chunk and who have got a wide wealth of content already available to them, but they're still accessing and seeking out more content for free. And when looking at genres, driving engagement and giving encouragement to subscribe to a streaming service, ad-based users over-index when looking for reality TV shows, family content, and older classics. All these genres have been a big focus and draw for audiences. And whilst the focus is being given exclusively produced shows, this is a less of a driver for audiences who are engaged on FAST. And so we're looking to ensure that with the key genres that they're interested in, how we use these to market the channels and reach out to those audiences to get them consuming into the FAST space. So just want to kind of thank you kind of for kind of your time today. Just kind of wrapping up on kind of a key few points there. Realize obviously that time is overrunning. So thank you. If you want to know more, then please do reach out to myself and the Futuresource team. So thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, James. Great data. Well, there you go. That was a jam-packed little jaunt that just scratches the surface about this dynamic, exhilarating, and yes, often turbulent world of OTT. We're super grateful to all our speakers and all of you for joining us today. We at OTT.X are honored to support the industry ecosystem, all the organizations and professionals that make it up. We are looking forward to seeing many of you in our membership community in New York at our roundtable discussion group on April 4th, at our members breakfast at NAB on April 16th, and of course, OTT.X Exference on May 20th and 21st. You can find out more about those on our website and take advantage of those awesome discounts that we were talking about all day that you can see even now on your screens. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and stream on.